You're sitting on the couch. You're tired. You open your mouth in a long, slow yawn, and within seconds, your dog does the same thing. Mouth wide open, eyes squeezed shut. The full performance, you've probably laughed at it and moved on. But what just happened between the two of you is not a coincidence, not a quirk, and not simply your dog mimicking something they saw. It is one of the most significant pieces of evidence we have that dogs experience something researchers once believed was uniquely human. And it starts with a question that scientists have been studying for over a decade. Why do we catch yawns from each other at all? The contagious yawn. Humans catch yawns constantly. You read the word yawn and there is a reasonable chance you just felt the urge. Someone across the room yawns and within seconds you do too. Even thinking about yawning for many people is enough to trigger one. For a long time, scientists assumed this was purely mechanical, something to do with oxygen levels or brain temperature regulation. But research over the past 20 years has dismantled that explanation. Contagious yawning, it turns out, is not a respiratory reflex. It is a social and emotional phenomenon. And the key to understanding it lies in a system in the brain that changes everything. Mirror neurons are brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that same action. They are the neurological foundation of empathy, the mechanism by which you wince when someone else gets hurt, feel secondhand embarrassment when someone stumbles, or feel your own chest tighten when you watch someone cry. Your brain is not just observing the other person's experience, it is partially simulating it. Contagious yawning is driven by this same system. When you see someone yawn, your mirror neuron network activates, your brain partially simulates the yawn, and the simulation often triggers the real thing. This is why contagious yawning is strongly correlated with empathy scores in humans. People who score higher on empathy measures catch yawns more easily. People with conditions that affect social processing, certain forms of autism, for instance, show reduced susceptibility to contagious yawning. It is an empathy signal, a social synchrony signal, a sign that your brain is tuned in to the person in front of you, and your dog is doing it too. The study that changed everything. In 2008, researchers at the University of London conducted a study specifically designed to test whether dogs catch yawns from humans and whether that catching was genuinely socially contagious or simply a stress response. Previous research had proposed that dogs might yawn in response to a human yawning not because of empathy, but because the open mouth and close eye contact of a yawn looks slightly threatening to a dog, triggering a stress yawn of their own. The London team designed their study to separate these two possibilities. They found that dogs did catch yawns from humans, and that they were significantly more likely to catch a yawn from a familiar human than from a stranger. If the yawning were simply a stress response to an open mouth, familiarity wouldn't matter. But it did matter enormously. The dogs were not reacting to the visual stimulus of an open mouth. They were responding to the emotional state of a person they were bonded to. Subsequent research confirmed and extended these findings. A study from the University of Tokyo found that dogs were 4 times more likely to catch a yawn from their owner than from an unfamiliar person. And dogs who showed stronger behavioral signs of attachment to their owners showed higher rates of contagious yawning. The connection is clear. The more your dog is bonded to you, the more they feel what you feel. And the yawn is just the visible surface of something happening much deeper. Emotional contagion in dogs. The yawn is striking because it is measurable and visible, but it is part of a much broader phenomenon that researchers call emotional contagion, the automatic, unconscious transmission of emotional states between individuals who are socially bonded. Humans experience this constantly. You walk into a room where someone is anxious, and you feel your own tension rise. You spend time with someone who is calm and content, and your own mood shifts toward ease. You don't decide to absorb these emotional states. It happens automatically, through a combination of mirror neuron activity, hormonal response, and learned social sensitivity. Dogs experience this with their humans. Studies measuring cortisol in dogs and their owners have found that stress levels in bonded pairs tend to synchronize over time, meaning dogs who live with chronically stressed owners show elevated cortisol themselves, while dogs with calm, stable owners reflect that stability in their own hormonal profiles. This is not simply the dog reacting to behavioral cues from a stressed human. The synchronization happens even in subtle, low-level emotional states that produce no obvious behavioral changes in the owner. Your emotional state is inside your dog's body. They are not observing it from outside. They are carrying it. What this means about dog consciousness. For most of history, the scientific consensus was that emotions like empathy required a level of cognitive complexity that animals simply did not possess. Empathy, as it was understood, required theory of mind, the ability to model another being's internal experience, to understand that they have feelings separate from your own, and to respond to those feelings. The contagious yawning research, alongside a growing body of evidence from other areas of animal behavior, has complicated that picture significantly. Dogs show responses that, in humans, we would attribute without hesitation to empathy. They approach humans who are crying. They show distress when family members are in pain. They alter their behavior in response to their owner's emotional state with a sensitivity that goes well beyond simple conditioning. Whether this represents true empathy in the philosophical sense or a sophisticated form of emotional contagion that produces the same outcomes is still debated, but the behavioral evidence is consistent. Dogs feel with you, not just around you, with you. The yawn is small, but what it points to is not small at all. The dog who feels your exhaustion. Here is something most dog owners have noticed but never quite articulated. When you are tired, truly spent at the end of a hard day, your dog is often calmer around you. When you are anxious, they orbit you more closely. When you are sad, some dogs press against you with a gentleness they don't display at other times. When you are energized, they match it. This is not coincidence, and it is not simply your dog reading your behavior. Behavioral research suggests that dogs are picking up on signals you are not consciously sending: micro-expressions, changes in your breathing and posture, shifts in your scent driven by hormonal changes associated with different emotional states. And they are responding to those signals with a synchrony that, in a human relationship, we would recognize as attunement. Your dog is attuned to you. They are, in every measurable sense, paying emotional attention to you in a way that most beings never pay to another. The reveal: when your dog yawns after you yawn, they are not doing a funny trick. They are not copying your mouth movement. They are catching your tiredness because their brain is synced to yours in a way that makes your internal states partially their internal states. That one small, sleepy moment is a window into something much larger, a bond so deep that your emotions travel across species and register in another creature's nervous system. A bond that took thousands of years to build and that science is only now beginning to fully map. You yawned. Your dog felt it. And without thinking, without choosing, their body responded. That is not a quirk. That is love working the way it is supposed to. The next time your dog yawns right after you do, don't just laugh and move on. Take a second to feel what that means. That tired, wide-mouthed moment is your dog's nervous system syncing with yours. Their brain reflecting yours. Their body saying, without any words at all, I feel what you feel. I am with you. Has your dog ever yawned right after you? Tell us in the comments. And if this changed the way you see that small, sleepy moment, subscribe. Every week we go deeper into the extraordinary science of what dogs and humans share.